Hello and welcome everyone. We are back again. Today, I, Shazia Sheikh, will be taking you on the ride of another inspirational pharma journey. We are here on the Humans of Pharma platform by Pharma State Academy, and here focusing on the pharma stories based on careers, inspirational pharma journeys, current affairs, and the book discussion. Today, another episode with another pharma leader in the Pharma Journey Series, Tarek Dilse. It's my pleasure to introduce you to the man who embodies the spirits of innovation and creativity, Dr. Narendra Chirmule. With a career spanning more than 30 years in the pharmaceutical industry, Dr. Chirmule had held numerous leadership positions at companies such as Biocon, Amgen, and Merck, where he oversaw the development of drugs and vaccines in the clinical immunology department. But Dr. Chirmule's achievements don't stop there. He is now a successful entrepreneur, co-founding SymphonyTech Biologics, a data analytics company where he currently serves as CEO and director. With a wealth of experience and expertise, Dr. Chirmule will share his journey as a scientist, musician, and entrepreneur, and the lessons he has learned along the way. Not only is Dr. Chirmule a respected immunologist, but he is also a prolific writer. His book, Good Genes Gone Bad, is a testament to his belief that success is built on the foundation of failures. With his unique perspective on the biotech industry and his passion for innovation, Dr. Chirmule's talk promises to be truly engaging and inspiring experience. So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Narendra Chirmule. Thank you very much, sir, for your presence.
Thank you, Shazia.
Here I go with the first question. So, as a scientist, academician, and entrepreneur, how do you balance these roles and what you have learned from the experiences in this?
Good question. I think over the years, having done many different things, as you mentioned, balancing all of these acts is a skill that is slowly developed. And I think what I've learned is living in the moment, focusing on what you are doing at that particular time is probably the best way to do as many things as you can. You have, give or take 8 to 10 hours a day, and you can do 8 distinct things if you give 1 hour each. So in the first hour, maybe you can read deep immunology. In the second hour, you can play some music. In the third hour, you can talk to a friend. And in the fourth hour, you can take a nap. And you've already done 3 big things. So similarly, if you just focus in the moment, I think there is really a lot we can do.
Great. Great one. One can surely see the light of learning through this. And can you tell us about your journey in the pharma industry, starting from your academic career to your role as CEO of SymphonyTech Biologics?
Yeah, good. So my journey in the biotechnology industry has been a lot of serendipity, a lot of chance, a lot of things that people have helped, my mentors, etc. But let me start with I'll describe 4 decades, and each of the decade has been quite distinctly different from each other. So the first decade was my education, where I got a chance to do my PhD in Tata Hospital in Bombay. And that was also an interesting experience, where that was my first experience of doing basic research, understanding how to do basic research. So that was my initial first decade of education. The second decade was in academia. After finishing my PhD, I came to the United States and started doing my postdoctoral fellowship at Cornell University Medical College, North Shore Hospital. And that's where I learned how to apply what I had learned in my PhD to trying to answer some difficult questions at that time, which was understanding the pathogenesis of how HIV causes AIDS. And then again, through a chance interaction with Jim Wilson in University of Pennsylvania, I had an opportunity to work in the field of gene therapy, which was in the early 1990s. And that was revolutionary, because that was a new field and there was a lot of new things going on at that time. And then after that, Just let the plane pass. And after that, I was in Philadelphia and I had an opportunity to work at Merck. The next decade was sort of the Merck or the industry transition from academia to industry. And at Merck and in Amgen, I got a great opportunity to see how drugs are developed firsthand. By developed, I mean developing the work that needs to be done, the pharmacology, the toxicology, process development, interacting with regulatory agencies, and the etiquette that you need to be, detail oriented and proper and through process. That's what I learned in the next decade. And then the final decade, which is current here, that I'm here in India, and in a place between India and the US, I had an opportunity to come back to India after 30 years of staying in the US and worked for Biocon. And I think it was a tremendously great learning experience in Biocon to see how the culture of working in India versus working in the US. And then after retiring from Biocon at the age of 58, the last 4 or 5 years have been a very interesting ride in the area of entrepreneurship, where with my friend from college days, Ravi Khare, we are exploring the space between what his experience is in engineering and mathematics and my experience in biology. So in summary, the last 4 decades, each decade has been quite different from each other. And each one of them has had that transition from one phase to another. And that transition always occurs due to some very interesting interaction that I've had with someone or the other.
Very insightful, sir. And also, sir, if you can tell us about your background in your personal life too, like how did that add value to your professional life?
Yeah, I think it's always a balance, right? We call the work-life balance and how everything works out. And, I think when I was studying in the first decade of, doing my PhD, master's, PhD, etc., when you're in college, you're fun-loving, you're participating in all these drama activities and things that you do in college, typically, having fun while you're studying. That you continue, but then when you join a company or when you start working, quote unquote, life suddenly gets serious, because then paisa kamana hota hai. You have to really learn how to live the cultured life of what society expects you to do. Children, and then all that good stuff happens, and you have to be proper. You have to earn money. You have to live properly in society and all that. And then once everything is achieved, then again, you're liberated and you can do whatever you want, like I'm doing right now, which is that transition of being able to do what you want to do rather than things that you have to do. And that's sort of what I feel of those parts of life that you have to live, are dependent on the experiences that you have at that time. And I think that the mentorship that I do now is to just share my own experiences, but also allow people to think that life is a complex thing of work, life, fun, seriousness, everything together. So, and we have to be efficient and find a way to do all of these things at the same time. And that's sort of not easy, but can be done.
One of the major thing which I want to, and every listener want to know also, your book, Good Genes Gone Bad, highlights lessons learned from failures in drug development. Could you please share some of these lessons with our audience and explain how they can apply them in their own careers?
Yeah. I think when I started writing this book, and as the book evolved, I think it was, again, lessons that I have learned, lessons that my friends and colleagues have learned, lessons that the drug development industry has taught us, is something that sort of emerged as I was writing the book. The first story that I tell is a story of my friend Murli, who has hemophilia, and he was in college with us, and he has very severe hemophilia that doesn't have any expression of the factor VIII gene, and so the manifestation of that clinical manifestation of the disease is quite quite difficult to see, in him. But over the last 40 years that he's been friends with me, he has expressed so much positivity. Like every time there is something going on, I mean, he climbs a flight of stairs and he'll have internal bleeding, and then how does he survive that? What does he have to do to take medicines just not to bleed, which we all take for granted? How he lives his life very, very carefully. Every step that he takes is predetermined, pre-thought. It's because any misstep is fatal, literally, physically, and figuratively. So those kind of preparation for and preparing for potential failure, anticipating what could go wrong, is something that Murli lives on a daily basis, right? And what can we learn from such examples is part of the things that I've written in the book, in the first chapter about hemophilia. Then there's another chapter where I talk about the HIV vaccine, for example. And again, so many lessons have been learned in basic immunology on how the HIV vaccine worked, how immunopathogenesis of HIV actually has taught us that, every problem doesn't have many times it has a very simple solution, but many times you also have to think very differently to be able to solve some problem. For HIV, we still don't have a vaccine against HIV yet. And yet, the perseverance of the scientific community for 40, maybe 50 years to still try to get an HIV vaccine is just incredible. Right? So that the persistence of trying to look for the truth, or look for, despite so many failures, and constantly falling down and getting up, is the story of HIV vaccines. And like this, there are 7 other stories. And so each one, a very bad failure had happened. And if it wasn't for those failures, the successes that occurred after that would not have occurred.
True, sir, true. Well, everyone must agree that it surely is a fantastic read. And moving on, as you have been a TEDx speaker also, you have spoken about various topics related to the industry, pharma industry. Can you share with us particularly memorable or impactful talk that you have given, and why was that significant?
Yeah, I've given a lot of talks over the last several years now. And what I learned from my talking myself, as well as listening to what people want to hear, so to speak, right? I think especially if different groups of people want to listen to different things. Early, master's, PhD students, or college students, or early people who are early in their career want to hear about career, right? And I talk a lot about careers and how people have examples of how people have been successful. So I talk about this concept called inflection points, which is a part of the curve that changes, something changes dramatically, and something exponentially good or exponentially bad could happen because of that. And how do you discover these points? So just as an example, Shazia, do you mind if we do a small exercise with you, and I'll show you how a career inflection points occurs, right? So I'll ask you about 4 questions. Usually I ask more than that, but I'll ask you 4 questions, and I'll show you how I talk about the career path, right? So the 4 questions I'm going to ask you are, what is your title? What is your education? What are your skills? And maybe what are your challenges? Okay, and you just give hypothetical ones. So what's your title? Before you answer what your title is, I'll tell you what my title is in my mind. It is, I'm a immunologist with 3 decades of experience in developing vaccines and biologics, with a deep interest in classical music. So that's my title. So what would be your title? 3 things you have to tell about yourself.
Okay, so I'm a project manager here, and have been a biotechnology student earlier.
Okay.
And yes, have a passion of dancing.
Good. So, so that's the title. Then I'll ask you the next question. Tell me your education. And wait, before you answer this question, the way you have to answer this question is, tell me anything that anybody has taught you is education. Like, for example, if your mother has taught you cooking, then cooking is education. So tell me 3 things that you've been educated on. Obviously, biotechnology is one. Then,
another is cooking. Yes, obviously,
yes.
from my mother. And then afterwards, dancing. Yes.
Dancing. Somebody has actually taught you dancing. Okay. Now, the third question I'm going to ask you is, what are your skills? And I'll ask you, the way to answer this question is, what are you good at?
Good at content writing. I am good at managing people.
Okay.
And yes,
good at dancing, maybe. Good at dancing.
Yeah, that's yes.
Okay.
True.
Yeah. Okay. Let's take that. And then the next question you don't have to answer typically, but just give me an example of what have been your challenges in your life, and I'll tell you how to answer this question. Like, for example, small challenges that you might have, that or also challenges. Like, I fought with my best friend when I was in 6th grade and I felt really bad about it. You sort of remember some things like this, right? These are not huge challenges, but some people have very big challenges, but in this process, you have to identify all the challenges. So tell me like a challenge that you might have had.
So yes, I'm not able to communicate to my dear ones on the daily basis.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. So now that you've got these 4 things, and there are other things in the process, there's a process that I ask people to do, which is called the satisfaction quotient. And now the satisfaction quotient is different from the intelligent quotient and different from the emotional quotient. So the satisfaction quotient describes how satisfied do you feel with your life right now. So I'll tell you, right now I feel satisfied maybe 7, because it's multifactorial, right? Do I have enough money? Am I happy? Am I not sick? I just came out of a flu, so I feel really bad right now. But so a combination of many different things, I feel a 7 out of 10. So what do you feel, 7?
I would say I feel 8 or 9.
8. Okay, 8.
Yes.
So now the next thing you have to do is everything that you told me right now. Like, for example, your education. Your mother taught you cooking. You learned dancing. You learned biotechnology. Let's say your biotechnology education, right? How good was your education? Like, how good do you feel your education was? 1 to 10.
I would say 5.
5. Okay.
Because I was in the COVID era. Yeah, 5.
Yeah. And how about dancing? How good is your dance teacher?
8.
8. Very good. Very good. Okay. Then your skills, right? How good are you at dancing?
8.
8. Okay. Your teacher also was 8, and you're also 8. Okay. Good. Then
she is. Yeah. I'm good at learning. She is good at teaching.
Okay, good. So you have to put that in perspective. Then you're challenged that how bad do you feel that you can't communicate well with your friends and family or whatever? Like it should be low score, like 1, 2, 3, something like that.
Yeah, I would say 2, because I don't communicate that.
No, good. So you see what's going to happen now. After this, what you have to do is you have to draw a graph between y-axis and x-axis. Okay, y-axis is your satisfaction score from 1 to 10, and x-axis is sort of a chronological thing, right? So on the extreme right is what you feel now, right? You said 8, I said 7, so that'll be that point in the curve. Then maybe your college experience was 5, right? Then maybe after that you learned dancing. The dancing was 8. Right. But then your challenge you had that you don't communicate with your family is 2. So you can imagine that your life, you can map your life like a graph, right? You can see everything. And so then when you see the graph, then you can evaluate for yourself. So when you're feeling really low at a particular time, what is it that you did to make the graph go up? That you must have done something to make your graph go up. And whatever that is your inflection point. And that's how you discover inflection points.
Okay.
right? Through a methodical way so this is what I talk about in terms of, how to build a career and from your own, reflection of your own career in a methodical, scientific way. And so this is something that I talk about quite a bit.
And this is quite amazing. Very well, sir. This is really very exciting and amazing, seriously. Moving on, like everyone who has seen you is aware of your interest in music, like you have said it yourself now. Can we say that it's a stress reliever and perhaps a passion in addition to your learning?
Yeah. No, I know I do a lot of things to sort of unwind. Music is obviously one of them, and I think it obviously it's a real good stress reliever. But I think the way I talk about hobbies is like this. You should follow a hobby with the same level of seriousness that you follow your job. Okay, and I'll explain this a little bit further. And Dad, what's your hobby? You're dancing. I like to dance. What kind of dance?
I love to calligraph as well.
You like to calligraph. Okay, let's say you do calligraphy, right?
Yeah.
When you do calligraphy, Shazia, are you thinking of work at that time?
No, not at all.
Not at all, right? So, and when you're working, are you thinking of calligraphy?
In busy schedule, somehow I do that.
You do.
Because it is after all, I will be thinking that after this work will be done, I'll be doing that in the evening. Yes. Yeah.
So sometimes what happens is, I don't know if you feel like this, that if you do a lot of calligraphy, let's say one day you like calligraphy because it's a hobby and you love it and all that, right? And you're doing a lot of calligraphy. Have you ever been in a situation, kabhi aisa lagta hai ki, let me stop the calligraphy. I'm so tired doing calligraphy. Let me go and do some work.
No. Haven't been in that place.
You haven't thought like that, right? But the reason I tell you this, the way the yin and yang for the hobby works, right? You asked me about music, and I'm going to talk about music in a minute. If you do your hobby as intensely as your job, such that when you're doing calligraphy, when you do so much calligraphy with so much seriousness, you want to break from the hobby. Like you want to break from the job. You're doing calligraphy with so much intensity, but you say to yourself, I'm really tired of this calligraphy. Let me go and do some work. And then when you're working really hard. And then you say, okay, I'm really tired of work. Let me go and do some hobby. Then the yin and the yang of the hobby and the work for each other. Otherwise, it doesn't work for each other. Kaam ke liye you have hobby as a byproduct, right? Hobby ke liye you have work as a byproduct. So when both of them are equally intense, I think the real balance happens. The real balance happens. It's a continuous process. So let's play some flute for you. Let's see if it works out.
Okay. Seriously, fantastic. You made my day, actually. And this was really very fantastic.
So to answer your question about hobbies and all that, you should take your hobbies as seriously as your job, right? Then it really works.
You have received several awards and recognitions, including the CIPLA Distinguished Fellowship in Pharmaceutical Science. What does this recognition mean to you, and how do you plan to continue contributing to the industry in the future?
That's a great question. I think over the years, I have a lot of discussion that I can have on awards, and what all should I tell you? Okay, I'll tell you some interesting things, right? First of all, I hope I don't work towards award. Who doesn't like to get an award? Everybody loves to get an award. Why would you not like to get an award, right? So getting an award or a gift is a fantastic thing. Like I'm human, so if you give me a gift, great, right? But if I don't get one, should I get disappointed? So I don't know. I might get disappointed if I don't get an award or something like that. But over the years, what I've learned in being in the corporate environment is, I think there is always a reward, recognition. All of these are important, right? In motivating people to do the next best thing. But on a sort of funny note, not serious note, but it is part serious but part funny. I would say, one of the worst days of my entire career every year in an industry is the day of the annual award, because more people are unhappy than happy, because many people who didn't get the award are not happy. In fact, the people who got the award also are unhappy because they didn't get what they wanted. And the people who are unhappy, like who didn't get the award, usko mila, why didn't I get? I did more than that, that. So more people, this is a little funny, but it's sort of a bit serious also. So awards has to be taken seriously, right? The other thing is also from an award perspective. So Shazia, let me ask you this question just randomly, right? So you're doing a fantastic interview. By the way, what you do is very important, and I really like to talk to you and other people to do these interviews, because it's important it's a nice way to share your experiences in a very methodical way. I think it's great that you're doing this. But from an award perspective, let's say you're doing a great job doing this award, and you were going to get an award. What would you want? What award would you want?
The first one, obviously the best one.
No, but what is it you want? What is it that you would want? Tell me, what materialistic thing would you want?
A trophy? A trophy.
You would like a trophy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but then what's, okay, that's good that you can think about that it is a trophy. But many people, like if I give you a trophy and it says, best presenter of the Humans of Pharma blog, or something like that, you've got to know, what are you going to do? You're going to keep the trophy somewhere, and it'll get dust in a couple of years, and later on what will happen is when you get a bigger award, then this trophy will mean nothing. There's nothing. And the importance of this award will go away after a couple of years when you get the next big award. So you should ask for something. To think about ask for something that kind of lasts, for example. So like, for example, you could ask, I want a 2-month vacation as an award. Yeah, paid vacation.
That is a very well one.
Or you could ask, why don't you hire my best friend into this company? That is my award. You want to give me an award? No, I'm like, you can tell your manager or somebody, right? Please hire my best friend as my man in this company. They'll say, oh, but she's not experienced. But doesn't matter. That's my award. You give her the. I'm asking you. That is my award. So you can
a lifetime award actually.
Yeah. So you can actually ask for. If you think deeply, you can actually start thinking about what kinds of awards you really want, and you tell your manager, I want this, because at the end we get trophies, we get money, you get like coupon to go and eat dinner somewhere. That's they're great awards, but they're not meaningful. You haven't even thought. We don't even think of really what we want, and we just take whatever is given to us. Financially, it could be even much lesser value to a company if they actually give you what you really want. You might say, you know what, I want to go, give me an award, dinner with the CEO. That's priceless, right?
You really have put it in a different perspective, actually.
Yeah, so we should think about what we want. I think that award is important. Yeah. So today, in different stages of our lives, we want different things. Earlier in our career, we probably want money. Later on, we want time, right? And in the I want to do something completely different. But think about awards and recognitions. It really needs a lot of thought, deep thought. It's not just a casual thing to award de diya.
And very a different perspective, as I've already said. This is really inspiring. Just a last question from my side. As a leader in the pharma industry, what advice would you give to the young professional looking to make a career in the field? And what skills do you believe are essential for the success?
Yeah, I mean, this is an important question. And in no particular order, the things that come to my mind right now is, find a mentor who can not just help you get the job, but someone who can listen to you properly and give you the advice or connect you to the right people who might be required for you at that particular stage of your life, right? Constantly improve your skills. Every quarter, for example, or every month, you should acquire a new skill. Today you're learning calligraphy, and maybe you become a better calligrapher next month, and even better one the following month. But let's say I want to do something completely different. Now I want to, maybe I don't want to write a novel, but maybe I'll write a poem by next month. Just do something which seems like an accomplishment. And don't necessarily look for rewards or something that might come out of these things. Because I think it's cliched to say follow your passion, but it is true, right? But on the one hand, if you follow your passion, but don't know what the purpose of your life is, figuring out what your purpose of your life is very difficult. It's a very difficult thing to do. But it takes a lot of time and effort to think about, this is the purpose of my life. This is why I was born, to do this thing, right? And that's here, for example. And then you have passion to back it up, to reach to that purpose of life. That combination really works well. But if you have passion without having that purpose, you might do something very passionate, but it is not towards the purpose of your life. It'll actually take you away from the purpose of life. If you randomly do passionate thing. So figure out what your purpose of life is. It doesn't have to be perfect. It'll constantly be changing based on the experiences you have. And then take passion and then march towards that purpose. And then life becomes fun.
This one advice needed for every individual, I think so. Not in pharma industry, but in every industry, I guess. Thank you so much, sir. And so we come to an end, and I wanted to thank you, Narendra sir, for your presence and for taking time out of your busy schedule. This has been a wonderful one for all our spectators, really. And everyone who is watching, I hope you enjoy this episode. Reach out if you have any suggestions for future episodes by connecting with us on LinkedIn and other social media channels at Humans of Pharma, or by email us at humansofpharma@pharmastate.com. Bye and thank you.